migrant crisis. Earlier this week, you said a future Labour government would be prepared to negotiate a returns agreement with the EU. The quid pro quo of any such deal would be accepting quotas of migrants from the EU. And this morning, Sir Keir Starmer appeared to backtrack. He said that the idea that the UK is going to join the EU scheme on quotas is complete nonsense. And this comes after Home Secretary Suella Braverman accused Sir Keir Starmer of wanting to make Britain a dumping ground for the EU's unwanted migrants, and after his proposal to seek a new returns deal with the EU were dismissed as delusional by European diplomats. What do you think? Do you think, though, that he's actually trying to drag us back into the EU? That's my question. I'm joined now by Benedict Spence, he's a political commentator, Dr Rakib Ehsan, social policy analyst, Peter Spencer, political commentator, and Peter Edwards, former editor of the Labour List. I'm going to start with Dr Rakib Ehsan. Rakib, do you think that perhaps Sir Keir Starmer really and truly is actually planning to drag us back in?
Absolutely no chance, Nana. I know that people may have reservations over the Labour leader. Under Jeremy Corbyn, he was the chief architect of the disastrous second referendum policy. But I also think that's the reason why he will not entertain the possibility of rejoining the EU. The reality is, if Labour concentrate on the bread and butter, the cost of living crisis in particular, Nana, then they're very well positioned to win the next general election. In fact, they have an advantage over the Conservative Party across a range of public policy areas when it comes to whether or not the Labour Party is more trusted than the Conservatives on those issues. I think that if they were to pledge that, if they have the plans to rejoin the EU, it would destabilise all of that. And I think that if you actually see, Nana, it's in those working class Brexit voting communities where Labour's actually regained a lot of ground. And that one thing that would potentially undermine that is by entertaining the possibility of rejoining the European Union, which, by the way, may be on very different terms. There may be requirements, for example, to join the single currency, which wasn't the case when we were in the European Union.
Yeah, well the terms will definitely be different. We won't get what we got before. Benedict Spence.
I mean, yeah, that's exactly. I think that's the key thing. We often hear increasingly, don't we, that rates of Brexit disillusionment and regret are constantly on the rise. All of these different polls saying that people regret leaving the European Union, but that doesn't ever mean actually that what they want is to rejoin the European Union in the form that they would be forced to do. We have no idea what the terms would be. All that we know is, and what you can be pretty certain of, is that they would be punitive. And as much as anything else, I don't think the country mentally is prepared to go through that rigmarole again, to reopen those wounds, especially when there are so many other material issues that I think are at the forefront of people's minds. But if nothing else, I just don't think Keir Starmer is that dynamic a politician to do something quite so incendiary. You know, he has been characterized throughout his leadership by being very cautious, sensibly so, I think some would say, given the mess that he inherited. But being, slow and steady has been the sort of the mantra of Keir Starmer, to just take the pin out of a grenade and go, oh, by the way, we're going to restart the idea of rejoining the European Union and let's see what happens, and lob it into the electorate. It just doesn't really seem in his character, does it?
Oh, I don't know. What do you think, Peter Spencer?
Well, I mean, I do accept the point that Starmer was Labour's Mr. Remain before the referendum, and I don't imagine that the emotional scars from losing that little case will ever quite heal. But I do think that the ardent Brexiteers who are worried about what he's going to do next really should take a bit of a chill pill here, because all he has suggested is a little bit more cooperation on channel crossings. It's probably won't work, but it's a pragmatic suggestion. And remember that Sunak backed Brexit, but he too, wherever possible, has tried to find better ways of